Hi, Sam. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So that's what I had.
That was
I told you before we started recording, I had like a way to kick us off. Yeah. I yeah.
You just say timidly hi to me 5 times as if you're summoning me in a mirror.
So, listener, the reason that this podcast might be a little hit or miss is
it's gonna be straight hits.
Because usually we have like things that happen, or like we'll queue up something to talk about at least. We don't got jack shit this time around.
Yeah.
Like maybe one thing that we just stumbled into. It's like it's real rough.
Yeah.
We could do the podcast thing, right? Where like, you just open your news tab on your phone and scroll until you find something you can just maybe talk about and be annoying about. But we don't want to do that because how did you put it, Sam? The default is that everything fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I love talking out of my ass as much as the next guy, but that's a private matter. I've been learning how to shuffle cards better. Like I can do that.
That's so awesome.
Listen to this. That probably noise canceled out completely for you. I hope that was fucking miserable.
We had the same problem on PST, which is the gaming version of it. That was that I'm on and that Billy runs. Billy is also the editor of this podcast. Hi, Billy.
I said it first.
Keep my name out of your mouth.
Billy, who said it first?
In 1967, Betty Andreasen claimed she experienced an encounter with UFO beings. Her story began in Massachusetts when all the lights in her home went out and her 7 children and her parents who were visiting were gathered in the kitchen. Her father looked out the back window, attracted by a pink light that was shining, and he saw several little creatures which he thought of as Halloween-like entities. He was wrong. They were all wrong. She didn't see angels. What she saw that night were creatures from another planet.
Thank you for that. So like we had to like we had like a proper news section for a while on the gaming one, Press Start Turbo, and I think the number one reason that we axed it, or like at least heavily de-emphasized it, I don't remember exactly, was because it pretty much like it was a lot of work to actually know a little bit about what you were talking about, at least a tiny bit for a podcast, and more importantly, pretty much every single thing that was said on that podcast pretty much boiled down to there's more layoffs this month, but there's a union, and then and that was it. There was fucking nothing else. It just kept getting
because
repackaged.
To say more would be to like step out of your depth, and a podcaster would never do that.
Well, no, I mean, we did say more. We said our opinions on it, but our opinions on the same thing happening to different people isn't going to change.
You didn't have like a priority list of like who you thought it would be funniest if got laid off, and like you really tore into them?
We had to cut that part.
Okay.
You'll never guess.
You cut the part when you went down like the list of individual names of employees who were laid off and like made fun of them for not having jobs anymore. I would never do that.
Unless it was for people I knew. But no, you'll never fucking guess what we usually had to say about people being laid off. I don't think anyone could possibly predict what our take would be that people lost their jobs like a whole lot. We had like a really nuanced take on it. That's why the segment was so evergreen, and we cut it for no reason.
Right.
It was just to challenge ourselves. We were talking last time about how like we're always trying to push ourselves into like difficult territory. I wonder, because you didn't give me an actual answer last time we talked about it. I wonder if there was ever a point for you where because I told you about like the moment that I had in creativity wherever I thought that I just didn't like the thing that I was doing with animation, and it's because I kept taking shortcuts that removed the fun from it, and because I was constantly trying to stay a step ahead of a program that hated me and wanted my entire bloodline wiped.
Yeah.
Surely you've had a moment like that. Everyone has like a story of like a particular, or at least like there's like a breaking point that you hit. You have to have like, especially in the games industry, if you've been in it for long enough, there's like a sort of pivotal moment usually.
I mean, I've had a few.
Oh, okay.
No, this is a thing that's come up several times where I've just been like, I'm gonna drop everything and become a librarian. Fuck off. It's
you've said that exact phrase before, and I thought it was a joke.
no. But I always find a way to bounce back. And it's like I have one of those signs. You know how like in factories they'll have the like days since an accident. So I have one of those for like this specific fantasy of mine, and I'm on a pretty good streak right now. But
that's surprising, considering the week that you've had. I am shocked you haven't reset that recently.
No, I'm locked in it for the long run. But so I guess, are we talking about like burnout generally, or burnout induced by like process problems of software? Because
for me, it's not process like software problems, like, because that is a universal constant of life, and I've accepted the fact that I'm never going to escape that. But like the process itself, like a self-inflicted thing, is what I'm interested in. For me, it was like outside of the software of Flash wanting me to peel my head apart. There was the angle of, I'm an animation channel, so I have to be animating.
Right.
But animating takes forever. So I need to be doing as much as I can to minimize the amount of time I spend animating. And the result is a joyless process. And it took me a long time to realize why I wasn't having fun. But it's a shockingly easy mistake to make whenever you're making shit and you want to make it quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the way that I have dealt with this problem is by systematically failing to hold on to success for a long period of time in any particular thing. So like when you're talking about having to optimize the shit out of your process in order to make this very repeatable thing happen, I have addressed this by simply not repeating things that I've done that have been successful. For the most part.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Which is a problem that I've now have to come back to, because it turns out that there are downsides to doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so I just kind of accepted the trade-off of like, I will be more tired jumping between things, but it will keep things fresh for me. And yeah, I mean, there were times where like, sorry, someone revving their motorcycle real loud outside.
They must be fucking badass and have.
They must be so cool. Yeah,
they must have like a leather jacket and sex all the time.
Don't they know I'm podcasting? Hang on, I'm gonna go yell that at them real quick.
Billy, I want you to keep that in. Motorcycles is probably going somewhere more important. Whatever. So, okay, we need to contextualize this because we're talking in a lot of vague concepts here. The average viewer probably has no fucking idea what this looks like in practice.
Yeah. So my last couple of years has largely been making small experimental projects, releasing them, and then moving on to the next thing. So there was like I turned MS Paint into a game engine where I could like make games by doodling it, and then I moved on to the next thing. And there have definitely been times where like, so the repeatable part of doing that type of thing is I have to research some really weird shit, and I usually end up uncovering like odd quirks of history when I'm digging into like how to latch onto MS Paint and make it do shit it's not supposed to do. And
that's never what it looks like from the sidelines. Usually it just looks like you wanting to kill every developer who's ever worked on the thing you're trying to break.
No, but like, well, if I'm trying to break it, I'm thrilled by these things, because the more strange and busted it is, the more stuff I can do with it. And there are ways now to use generative large language model to kind of shortcut that process of having to dig through weird documentation and all that stuff. And like I can have it generate boilerplate code that's maybe wrong, but it like shortcuts me to the right keywords. And that is not fun to me. It doesn't lead me to interesting, weird stories the way that my other process does. And this brings me like the second thing that I'm doing right now is like I'm trying to make all of my work kind of about the process of making it in some way or another. So yeah, I'm like, if a thing isn't fun and I'm optimizing it to the point of not being fun, it kind of ruins the whole project.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's enforced. that I stay silly with it, you know?
That's interesting. I mean, we don't have to go any further if you don't want to, but I'm just surprised that there isn't something from earlier on where you just fucked yourself in a particular way. Because like that, I always kind of viewed that as a creative constant. At some point early in the process, when someone is familiarizing themselves with a thing, they get a little too into a particular part of it, they run it into the ground, and then they think they never want to do it again. And it turns out, no, you just did that one thing a million times.
Yeah. I mean, the ways that I've done that were like either one, I was working on a professional project and the bustedness of the software made my life hell and I never wanted to do that again.
Don't know what that's like.
Yeah, right. Or two, I just existentially, like it wasn't a tool or a specific process that I had rabbit holed myself into. It was the entire creative thing. I had like cut off other parts of my life in order to make that work. And that ended up being the existentially distressing thing.
Ah, the game developer's gambit.
This is true. And that's the other thing, is that it's very specific to game developers. There's never ever been like an online personality, for example, that has burned themselves out by making their entire life exclusively about work that was not going to give back to them existentially the things they were throwing away.
No, but like this is also related to what I was saying, is that I've been thinking this for a while. Whenever the whole creator burnout thing was a really hot topic, I think that a large part of it was coming from people who made the same fucking shit 6 times a week.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah, I bet if I was a Let's Player for a living, I'd get burned out pretty quick too. I don't think I'd have fun with that for 10 years straight, personally. Once it's easy, it's boring.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like the reason that you start doing a thing is because it's fun and new, and then the reason you keep doing it is because it works and
makes money.
Yeah, it's that thing where like in the business world, in the big fat world of business, it's like a common, what is it, maxim, proverb, whatever the fuck, that like what it takes to start a company is not the same as it takes to run it. So like someone can be really, really good at taking a startup into big success, but once it's like big, maintaining it is just miserable for them because the set of problems changes out from under you.
I have heard this applied. I read once in a business book that I fucking hated that whenever you get into like that scale of business, you start looking at CEOs, CFOs, people in leadership positions who specialize in scaling a business of a certain size to a certain other size. For instance, if you've got $100,000 business, ideally what a lot of people will say that you need is someone who has experience bringing something like that to $1 million business. And that's a specific role that is very different from one who takes it from $100 million to $1 billion business.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me.
Yeah. Because, it feels like this is a problem also that manifests in any game that is like financial strategy adjacent, like Factorio stuff, like any games about
Warlord,
making...
Oregon.
Exactly.
That's day trading. It's not business.
That's day trading. That's true. None of these games have anything in common. But like Factorio... you deal with these problems of like exponential scaling with players. The part of the game that they enjoy is the optimization and trying to make everything fit together and work. But like at some point, things go well enough for them that
the Minecraft problem, really,
you kind of won the game, quote unquote, and now the part that you were enjoying isn't really there anymore. So what do you do now that you're making your millions? And the answer is usually you just have to kind of keep building out more things to do at exponential scale to keep the treadmill running for longer. Yeah. And I mean, that was like a problem in Space Warlord when we were making that game that you just played for the first time recently, in an hour ago.
Yes. This is a game made by Strange Scaffold, which I should have clarified earlier. Sorry. Is the satellite game dev studio that Sam has worked at a number of times, and we're friends of many people in the studio. We're chummy with them. Sam still works with them. The game they made a few years back. When was it?
It was 2020 to 2021. It was my first time ever working with them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you already like know people generally within the
No.
studio? Oh, okay. So you were
Hell no.
really
I had DM'd Zolivir, studio head, one time before that.
Wow.
Because I said I'm going to try to bait Nintendo to sue me. And he said, don't do that. And then we didn't talk for several months. And then he hit me up later.
Is there a story there? Sounds like there's a story there.
There's an entire story there about how after I graduated high school and I didn't get into like any of the colleges that I applied to, I was doing community college. And I was trying to think about like, well, I think I'm ready to, try and take another swing at being in the game industry.
Uh-huh.
And so I decided my brilliant plan was like, well, in order to get into the game industry, I can either try and study up and spend a ton of money to go to a 4-year prestigious game design school, or like what I really want is I want people in the game industry to be looking at me and seeing that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, here's my great idea is like, I'm going to, this is 2019, 2020, I'm going to make a pitch for like a Wii Sports 3.
This fucking project.
Yeah, I was going to make Wii Sports 3, but in VR, and I was going to make it an open world explorable thing and like give it a campaign.
This is back when Sam was primarily a VR developer, in terms of interest, at least.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to publish it, and I'm going to get Nintendo to, send me a cease and desist letter. But yeah, I was going to do this as a stunt, and he has later informed me that he believes he made the wrong call in advising me to not do this.
I mean, hindsight is 2020, and he's certainly danced with the devil a few times since administering that advice. So I can see how his perspective would shift.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because also, like, you will get fucked up if you take things too far with Nintendo, especially.
Exactly.
And I think that that's part of what he was worried about, was that if I didn't have a good sense of where to draw the line, that could have ended very badly for me.
Yeah, I think that he partially regrets that because now he knows you and he knows how much you overthink this. So, like, he would trust you more with respecting the legal boundaries now and exactly how far to cross them. Whereas back then, stupid kid developer wants to get sued by Nintendo. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. It honestly reminds me of when Microsoft had to take down El Dorito, the worst named project I've ever heard in my life. Do you know about that?
El Dorito.
Oh, you don't know?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to be a podcaster and say things from memory that are probably kind of wrong. But as memory serves, there was at one point a plan very early, very long ago, before the Master Chief Collection was ever like a hint of coming onto PC. Mm-hmm. There was a project that was outsourced to a studio that I forget, might have been Saber, might have been someone else. It was codenamed Halo Online or whatever. It is a PC port of Halo multiplayer, and it was going to just be a thing. I believe it had some closed beta testing at some point or something, but it never got super far. It was killed for one reason or another pretty early in development. Time passed and it leaked at some point. I'm pretty sure it was the source code that leaked because otherwise I don't see how the community would have been able to just throw together a working version of it based on the leaked material. But that's what happened. And instead of calling it something normal, they referred to it as El Dorito. I forget why. It wasn't funny. But before MCC ever came to PC, if you wanted to play Halo multiplayer and have it resemble anything other than Halo 1 or maybe Halo 2, if you hated yourself and wanted to try to get that port working, the easiest and free way of doing it was downloading this. And it was a real hodgepodge, very obviously, community made thing. There were like Halo 3 maps with Halo 4 assets and weird mixes of mechanics that didn't quite make sense, and it was very strange. Like a real hodgepodge grab bag of Halo assets and mechanics thrown together so that they work, and that's it. But it did work. And After it had been around for a decent chunk of time, it gained just enough notoriety for Microsoft to come down and tell them the cease and desist. You cannot distribute this. Take servers down. I'm pretty sure it was peer-to-peer, but whatever. You can't play it anymore.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of discourse when that happened about people debating as to whether or not this was cool of Microsoft. Because obviously, the knee-jerk reaction is, what the fuck? I want to play gaming on PC Halo.
Yeah.
But the way that Microsoft did it, they didn't just send a cease and desist. They issued a statement alongside it where they tried to, as softly as possible, say, we literally have to protect our IP. We're not going to hurt you in any financial way as long as you do, in fact, take this down and stop working on it. Also, P.S., we might be cooking. So, it read to a lot of people within the community as Microsoft staying their hand, being very merciful considering the circumstances.
Yeah, and fucking far be it from either of us to portray any legal teams as kind and merciful. The only
we're talking in relatives here, not extremes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the only cases where I can think of a company creating specific legal infrastructure for fan works to live within was Lucasfilm and their treatment of fan films, and creating specific guidelines under which they had effectively granted license to fan works as long as they fell within certain non-commercial restrictions.
I know nothing about this. What?
Fuck, I really wish I had read up on this again recently to talk about it in more specific detail.
Just podcast about it.
Just podcast about it? All right, I'm ready. Yeah, so
if only we had our
short,
own little minion, if only we had a Jamie to our Rogan, we could just tell someone to just do some bullshit for us while we do the real work,
Yeah, well, we do the real work.
Chat, let us know if we need a minion who can just look stuff up for us.
If a minion was here, they could have answered that question.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for a long time there was official condoning of fan films by Lucasfilm. This is very much pre-Disney era, but they even hosted an official fan film competition annually.
Oh, what?
Yeah, for a long time. It's when people say Star Wars is the biggest independent movie ever made, that has a lot of implications beyond just being super tongue-in-cheek about the definition of independent.
Right.
The fact that they were a company operating at gigashit scale, owning the copyright on the most gigashit IP ever to exist at that time, and also weren't beholden to 3 layers of companies above them, it meant that they could do shit like that. It was pretty cool in my opinion, but yeah, it's really, really hard to see. I know that there's been other instances here and there, but it's hard to imagine larger companies doing that really cool move of being here, you can play with our toys.
Yeah.
Just don't do anything that we make money off of. Otherwise, and we're good.
I wonder what George Lucas's stock portfolio looks like.
Pretty good. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think George Lucas is probably the best billionaire that there is. He got fucking $4 billion
competition
from
out
Disney.
there. Tough.
Yeah,
it's cutthroat competition
right?
out there, dude.
Right? On one hand, you have Elon Musk. And then on the other hand, you have George Lucas, who got $4 billion from Disney
for giving
largely in stock options. And then he went on the news and called them white slavers. And then
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then they got mad at him because he was an active shareholder in the Disney company.
That's so funny.
On account of just selling them his IP. And he had to go on and walk it back. But yeah, it was
just sell your stock, bro. Just live free.
No, yeah, I can respect it. I can respect the moves.
I do have a lot of respect for that man. I remember recently watching an interview where he looks like he's aged 7 million years since the last time I saw him, even though he looks the same. It's his aura. Where someone asks him, so what was Star Wars 1 about? And he's just zero hesitation, Vietnam War.
Yeah,
immediately. I respect him not he still sticks to those guns even all these years later. He don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and someday you're even going to watch the movies.
So true. You and I are going to watch all of them, and then we're going to watch Andor, and you're going to be paranoid the whole time that something's fucked up with them because of the relationship that we've built.
Mm-hmm. Haven't had.
Mandy's influence is just, it's not, we're going to have him on sometime. We're going to talk about how much he's traumatized everyone he knows at this point.
Yeah. Fun fella.
Video game you made. We're finally going to talk about it. So yeah, Zalavir tells you not to ruin your life, and then he hires you.
And yeah, that was first game I made with Strange Scaffold, and that project was my lifeline out of the very tech heavy side of the game industry, and it was fun. A lot happened. We made it, and then you played it a couple hours ago.
I did, and I liked it. I liked it a whole lot. And you're
not just saying that because I have like a gun under the table pointed at you. You really mean it?
I wasn't going to look under the table because it felt weird, because that would be like I was looking at your penis. But like, I mean, if you're going to draw my attention there, then I guess, sure.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Whatever. Viewer, I want you to imagine in detail.
Please, hey, Billy, cut it. What'd you think of the game?
Well, I enjoyed it. I'm not... I don't know how long I'm supposed to be playing it for before I'm done with it. It feels like the kind of game wherever you could technically finish, quote unquote, the thing and still play it forever.
Yeah, it has a lot of different endings in it.
Oh, really? Endings for particular plot lines or just full-on endings?
It has several full-on endings, and you can still pick up and play as if the ending didn't happen. But yeah, we should lay out the ground for the people. Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator is like, so you know what I just said is the title? That's what the game is. All right, now we can move on. Continue talking.
Yeah, that's great. It is a simulation of playing of doing day trading, and it's funny. It's one of those games where when you play it, you become like a person you don't like, and it reminds me of my experience playing Baba Is You, where like I would play that game with friends. And if you know anything about the mechanics of Baba Is You, you know that it makes you think in a very peculiar manner. I found myself, a few hours in a Discord call trying to figure out puzzles with friends and ending up just sounding like a caveman, because I would need to explain concepts in the game's terms. And so it ended up manifesting as me very passionately yelling to people who I don't agree with about complex logic puzzles that no, if Baba is fire, then water cannot be wet. I'm fucking serious. But except you made a day trading video game, and so I just started getting really, really into buying low, selling high, and looking for the more valuable organs.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, that was I'm glad.
It reminded me a little bit of that very brief little moral stumble I had a few years ago, before I realized that, before I realized two crucial realities of the world. One, that cryptocurrency is not a thing to get into for a lot of reasons, and two, that by engaging with it in the way that I did, I was gambling. So, but it was fun before I saw the light, which is kind of the problem with day trading when you're trying to get into it. But you made a video game that reminded me of exactly how that felt.
Yeah, we had, when we first started making the game, we had a lot of conversations about what the interface should look like and what would be going too far in terms of trying to induce those feelings. And so, we designed the UI, and then a couple months later, I was like, I should see what's actually out there. So I downloaded the Robinhood app, and I realized
oh boy,
several things that we had decided to not do because it would have been too comically bad. That app just does. Like when your portfolio is going down, it starts pulsing this like red glow, like a throbbing heartbeat, like you've got blood around the edge of your eyes.
As a user of Robinhood, yeah, it sure does do all that.
It's fucking crazy. It's just what they're doing is just game design, but bad with your real money. What
The trouble is that
fuck?
it's still one of the easiest ways to invest in stocks, which is a good idea if you have any money. Just so that this is not financial advice.
Also, no, it's not. That is not how you. If you don't have that much money, you should not be gambling it on the stock market.
But if I were giving it financial advice, I really would say that though is like you need to input all of your money in Nvidia. That's what I would say if
You should
in the hypothetical where this was advice. It's all in. Buy low.
Please. You're gonna get us in
I'm
trouble,
not.
man.
I'm not. Anyway, all joking aside, the experience I have had using that app, it is quite comedic.
Yeah.
Just how extreme it goes in turning it into a fun little game with your real money.
And yeah, it's just the whole goal is to amplify the highs and lows as much as possible in as many ways as possible to keep you stressed out and glued to it. It is not there to help you. Those UI touches are not there to help you make well-reasoned decisions. It's to try and push you into making lots of
Sam, all I'm going to say is that whenever I pressed the trade button and it did the little animation, I felt good.
Yeah, I changed my mind. Yeah, no. So it's like this dear listener is part of the problem that we ran into when making Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator. It's not that we ever went too far. It's that we later realized that we actually were behind the curve and didn't go far enough in terms of like creating this compulsive loop. And commenting on it.
It's really funny to me that you say this because the game is called Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, and these are early to midway through the development. You were having conversation about what is and isn't too comedically evil. What?
Yeah.
What? Why? You'd think the part of the pitch would be we're going to parody this by turning it into an extreme.
You gotta stay grounded and humble while you're making these things.
But the almond break is very prominently featured in the soundtrack, listener, for this game. I want you to bear this in mind whenever Sam describes staying grounded.
Yeah, we wanted it to be as realistic as possible.
Billy, I want you to have played the almond break so everyone knows what we're talking about. Good soundbite, isn't it? Love that.
Soundtrack for the game goes fucking crazy.
Oh, it's so good. I had an extended argument. Not argument. Just annoying miscommunication where I was the middleman between you and RJ, where you were disagreeing about what parts of dynamic music are hard of various implementations in this game compared to what Beast does, where wasn't it something like 18 different separate tracks that are playing in Space Warlord all at once that you're just crossfading depending on what menu you're on?
Yeah. So in Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom of the screen that all have...
I'm sorry. RJ is the composer / sound designer for basically every Strange Scaffold game, for context. Apologies.
In the game, there's a bunch of different tabs for like fucking checking your stats or what traders are going to be around the next day. And for each song in the game, I basically allowed RJ to create different mixes with volume for each of the different tabs so that as the song was playing, it would crossfade between all of them based on how he decided to set the levels of the different stems of the audio. And that made him export a lot of sound files and then go into the game and do a whole bunch of shit. And I made work for him.
It's very interesting in how that works in practice, though. Mm-hmm. I think that Robinhood should try to integrate like something similar. So like, you know, I hear like an awesome breakbeat whenever I'm going to like buy more AMD stock.
Right.
And then there's kind of like the music kind of slows down, shifts key whenever I see everything go red because my stocks went down.
The adaptive music in Robinhood I definitely think doesn't go far enough.
Yeah, for sure. I really like what it does in Space Warlord because it's interesting how well it matches the frantic nature of gameplay every time you switch any menu, the entire game is just menus, right? You're navigating between the people giving you jobs and then the stuff that you're actually buying, looking at your inventory, checking the part wherever you're looking at all the lines go up and down, as is the case with stocks. Every single tab that you click has a particular preset for what parts of the song playing should be prominent, loud, muted, quiet, etc.
Yeah.
And you'd think that whenever you're clicking between tabs fucking constantly, like checking 3 or 4 menus every 10 seconds, that wouldn't really work with adaptive music. But no, it just does. Just kind of does. It feels like it does. So it does. I'm going to kill RJ. He's not right. When are we having him on?
Yeah, no. RJ is ridiculous as a person and composer and musician, and it's genuinely fucked up. Like, that he was able to look at a game that is built mainly out of menus and then write the soundtrack for that. Also, by the way, it's fucking on a similar note, because music.
I like music.
The trailer for Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator. This is a Gary. Gary is the guy who made the trailer for the Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator.
No, that's SpongeBob's pet.
I just keep getting them confused. But yeah, when Gary came in, now I'm just imagining SpongeBob's pet to the project. I was secretly kind of quietly thinking, like,
SpongeBob's pet Gary.
Yeah, when he came into the project, I was secretly thinking, like, there's no way to make this like a really good trailer. I don't know how you're gonna handle it. And then he did, though, and it's fucked up. And I wish that I could say more about it, but the thing is that we're talking with audio, and a trailer is a thing that you watch.
Billy, put in an almond break. That's kind of like what the trailer was like.
That's exactly what the trailer. How did you make that noise?
It's because it's awesome. Right. It's fucked up. I also don't really know what to add, because a trailer is a thing you need to watch, and a podcast is not a thing you watch usually.
Yeah. The main other story with the trailers, that during one of the trailers that we were making, this was like the first time that I got really into the Kinect again. Oh. And as a joke one night, I was just added Kinect support to the game without telling anyone on the team.
Oh, right.
And then I dropped a video of it in the group call of me playing the game.
How long did
using
this
an
take?
Xbox Kinect. It was like an hour at most.
Wow. So it was just like a cursor, or like what? How did this connect to a game like this?
Yeah. So I used a similar method to getting a Kinect working in the Wii emulator, which I would never run on my home PC.
Of course.
It was all attached to the cursor, because the whole game was menus. It was really easy to make it so that grabbing and dragging in the ear was all, it was all just done with the Kinect in your hand instead of the mouse. And that joke made it to the shipping final game, to the point where they let me record a little stinger for the end of one of our trailers of the Kinect that I filmed in one night.
That's so cool.
An office building that I was in at the time.
So you're saying if I dust off my Xbox One and find a Kinect for it, plug it in, and then I get this game on my Xbox right now, I can play it that way?
No. Xbox Kinect support is only available on the PC version of the game.
What's wrong with you? This was a Game Pass game, and you didn't. What's wrong with you?
We did look into it.
You've pissed me off now. I'm actually mad.
Here's the thing. We did look into it, and I can't say that much about it besides it fascinatingly would have affected a lot of the game's development on a technical level if we wanted to use the Xbox Kinect in the game.
So cool.
It would have had ramifications.
Sam does not subscribe to any of what I'm about to say. But in my own very personal opinion, it's really fucking awesome how much just ticking off the box of a particular thing whenever launching on a console can just completely change how you have to deal with the console and the walled garden. That is it's really cool. I love video games. I love when people make video games. And I love video games.
There's a lot of really interesting shit there that I am never going to be able to speak about, and I have to die with.
Yeah.
It's But long story short, PC version shipped with Xbox Connect support.
How much of that bled into the Connect video that you were working on around the same time?
That one was interesting because we've talked about it before. I made a video about the Xbox Connect, and part of the challenge.
It was not about the Xbox Connect. Don't lie to the audience.
It was about me, and it involved making the Xbox Connect work again. Yeah, I kind of had to, with the exception of one clip, kind of ignore the existence of Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator when doing the story of that video, because I didn't want this. That video is like a docu-fiction type shit. It was one of my early attempts at doing that.
It disrupted the narrative.
It would have, not only would it have disrupted the narrative of the video, but in any way that I would have included that in the narrative of the video, which involves me becoming worse as a person, that's a two-way street. If I integrate the story of that game into the video, I also integrate whatever story I'm doing in the video into like the public narrative of that game.
Right. And you don't want Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator, a game developed by multiple people, and that it would be good if it performed well, to be tied into your insane crackpot mockumentary about you just being a bad person and breaking into E3.
Yeah. And so you have these, like, at the same ish time, there were these parallel stories. I mean, the video came out much, much later, but yeah, like there was a Steam forum post that Zolvier wrote about the fact that the game had Kinect support and kind of how that came to be. And it went super viral on Twitter and Tumblr and had news articles written about it.
Wow.
And shit. And
I missed all that.
Yeah. So that was like a separate story to what is in the video, obviously. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and it's become a kind of expectation that when I work on projects, I leave something behind like that, and that's a reputation I'm fine with having.
So I played the game and I liked it a whole lot, and I'm still playing it and I'm still liking it a whole lot. But the reason I played it at the time I did is because I'm going through my backlog of indie games, because I'm making another video about indie video games that I think lay viewer, the girl hearing this, should play. But this is a really weird one, because not only am I friends with the studio, but I'm friends with, like, close friends and fellow podcaster with someone who made the thing. So you could make the argument that there is a slight conflict of interest.
Yeah. You are now. You were not at the time that the game came out.
Not at all. I had no idea that studio existed back then. This is a recent development.
Yeah. My instinct is just to say, like, it probably shouldn't be included in the video in any case, because I think that the way that you advocate for things that your friends are doing and the way that you advocate for things that you just like independently of that should probably be separated in some way.
Yeah.
There are definitely cases where, like, yeah, but the fact that we have an extremely close friendship makes it just feels like a separate category of media.
Okay, dude. Extremely
creator.
Close. Okay. All right.
We keep each other at arm's length usually.
Yeah.
I know he secretly likes me.
We did not.
I know he secretly likes being my friend.
We shared grid coordinates at Canada to avoid each other, lest you forget.
Yeah. Well, that's how I know how to quantify exactly how close we are. That's the Pythagorean theorem, baby.
No. That's wordplay.
That's Plato's cave.
You know, Sam, I can do word association too. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
The fuck are we talking about?
We're talking about the fact that you should start tweeting right now about how much you fucking hate that game, just to kind of balance out the scales a little bit.
Yeah.
No, but like I don't know. I think that, like, your critical opinion is worth protecting as, like, a thing, and I think that separating the venues in which you decide to talk about friends' projects versus just general media is worth doing. Probably
it's a weird place to be in when making those videos, but part of what I do and what I try to illustrate, and I should probably go harder on illustrating next time around, is that those aren't reviews, those are recommendations. It's a very different thing. For instance, I love Slayer's X Terminal Aftermath Vengeance of the Slayer, which is why I recommended it in the last one of these videos, but I have problems with it. It's not a perfect game, not by any stretch. But I could have spent a lot more time dissecting it. I could have made a whole video just about that video game and all the things it gets right and all the things that I wish that it had done differently. But that's not the point. It wasn't a review. It was me telling you that overall I like it and I think you should play it because I want less money to go to $70 AAA video games and more to go to indie developers.
Right. Well,
and so by that metric, my critical relationship is obviously slanted towards positivity with anything Strange Scaffold has worked on. Fuck it, I'll say it. I wouldn't recommend most people play like Sunshine Shuffle. I didn't like that one very much. I've been going through Strange Scaffold's whole catalog. There are still ones that I'm just not into. It's not as if I'm completely blindly shilling anything that the studio has put out. So I do wonder whether or not, disclosure of that could be enough. I know people would appreciate me being upfront with that, and I wouldn't dream of shilling the game without mentioning that relationship. I'm spending a lot of time with in my mind palace thinking about this because this is not the only time that I'm going to be talking about this game, or the games that the studio has made. But moreover, if I do include it, then I get to make so many jokes at the expense of people who care about the stock. And that sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to have to lose that. I want to mention the Dow Jones, knowing nothing about the Dow Jones.
The guy named Dow Jones.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what the video is for, because I certainly don't think you're not allowed to talk about things that you like that your friends worked on and made. But it's just, a matter of what in your mind the point of that video is.
I just want to redirect people's attention away from the stuff that has the marketing budget to get the most attention and towards stuff that I think is interesting and people who I think deserve more support.
I guess in that case, the only question that I would raise is that if you're going to highlight however many games, is that one of the better ones to use in that spot at this point?
It is, but I mean, the other thing is it's not just about supporting the indie developers. I mean, because firstly, if I support them too much, they might go to the grocery store and they have food there. But aside from that, there's also the aspect of I want people to be exposed to interesting things rather than whatever is most likely to be recommended to them based on how what publisher is blowing $1 billion on marketing this month. And so it's the same justification I used for why I'm probably going to talk about Pacific Drive in this video. Those motherfuckers do not need my support. They're good, I'm quite sure. I don't think one video that is listing many videos of which their game is just one is going to tip the scales of that studio's future, especially on my scale. But it's a game I think more people should play, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Especially if it's them playing that instead of, I don't know, the next Assassin's Creed or something. Sam does not agree with that, by the way. That's all me saying that. He loves Assassin's Creed.
I love game. You flatten yourself with a rolling pin, like Flat Stanley do.
Yeah.
Cool.